Hello.
Hello,
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Am I properly audible
Yeah,
and visible?
yes, perfect. Yeah,
Right. Nice to
okay.
meet you, finally.
Yes. Okay, I welcome you, Ikea. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. Thank you, Tasreen, for this.
Okay,
How are you?
just 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. Take
Yeah,
your time.
I'm doing amazing. Okay. Okay, let's start. Okay, Ikea, first I would love you to give your introduction and then what did you study in Paris?
Okay, so, well, I'm Ikya. I originally am from Hyderabad in India. Then I went to Delhi to do my studies. I was there for about nearly on and off 4 years before I moved to France for my master's, and this was in August of 2022. And I went to HEC Paris. I did my master's in sustainability and social innovation. It was just a 1 year course, so I graduated in 2023. And after which I've been working here. So yeah, I've been living here for about 2.5 years now. And yeah, that's a little bit about my academic and professional path. After graduating from HEC, I worked at the OECD for a year. So that work was a lot in like international development policy. And then more recently, I've been working at this NGO in Paris, which is based in education, which is called the Learning Planet Institute. So that's yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Amazing. You have changed your stream, right? In India, you studied
Yeah.
I chemical probably or chemistry, right?
I had done science, and then I was
Right.
just like, I mean, at that point, I guess I just did not really know what to do because I think, these sorts of choices on which stream that you're supposed to take, it's just taken way too early in your life, I think. By the time you're 17, you're
Right.
just applying for universities. And then at that point, I think it was just engineering or science or medicine, there was not
Medical, right?
much of an option to study anything else. And then I went to St. Stephen's College in Delhi. I very, very quickly lost interest in what I was doing. And I think, but it was a very, very nice time, good exposure. It allowed me to kind of do a lot of things just outside of the classroom, explored what I like doing. And I think through the process of that, I got the time to do like internships outside,
Right.
talking to people, seeing people actually just pursue very different paths, which weren't typically, science or engineering, I think. And then eventually I sort of also decided that I wanted to really maybe study abroad. So yeah, I just chose this.
And what made you choose a different stream? Like, what clicked you that, okay, I don't want to do chemistry anymore. Let's do something else. So, what made you do that?
To be
Because
honest,
you graduated, right? You
yeah,
graduated
yeah,
already, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I did. And to be honest, I don't think I have, and I still don't think I have that one subject area that I'm very passionate about. I don't think I've found that, you know, passion for myself in terms of simple academic path. So even when I was taking up this particular course in France to study, even when I was sort of even when I was thinking of applying abroad, scouting for courses and doing my research, I was like very broadly, I wanted to go something like public policy or development policy or sustainability or something very like a little bit social sector development related, I think. But I did not have a very niche area that I wanted to explore or that I was, very, very interested in. So I think that's why I was a little bit flexible in terms of the course in and of itself. But I think the decisions for me were based more or less on like, where would the university be based? What are the job opportunities once you graduate? What, like, oh, of course, finances was a thing. Like, does it qualify for scholarships? I think these were the sort of factors which helped me narrow down on the course rather than me
Mhm.
choose one particular course and then, thinking about it. So it was
Right.
just a different way to approach it. Yeah.
Okay. And was Paris your always a choice, or before moving there, you decided that you want to go to France, or?
Not necessarily. I think I was more keen on Europe in general, Europe or UK, because I did not quite want to go to the US. I
Mhm.
wanted to go to either, yeah, I mean, I was considering a couple of universities in UK, in London, and then few in France. But even in France, it was just like, Sciences Po and HEC, which I was considering. But in the end, I only ended up applying for HEC because I wanted to do a 1 year course. I wanted it to be from a university which has a good sort of reputation and prestige, because that really matters when you're here in terms of job opportunities and the network that you get later. So yeah, I mean, I really did like the course curriculum in the sense I felt like it was quite flexible. You could most of the courses you could choose as your optional, so there was a lot of like scope to curate it in a way that it interests an individual. So yeah, I mean, these were all the, and even in terms of scholarships, Campus France, it does give like, you have a decent number of opportunities, to sort of get a scholarship as well. So that was also a major factor. So yeah, it just so happened to fall into place. It wasn't like, I didn't start off this process saying, okay, I want to go to Paris. It just fell into place for me that way.
Right. And we always connect Paris something romantic, right? When you think about romance, love. So, what was your expectation, and what was the life? I mean, now also you are there. So, how is living there?
I think before I came, I had zero expectations. Like I did not, because I did not know what to expect. Because this was like like when I first came here for my master's, it was like my first time ever outside of India. So I did not even know, like I hadn't even, it's so cliche. Like I hadn't even watched like Emily in Paris and shit like that. Like, I mean, I feel like I just came in being like, okay, fine. Somehow I've signed up for this. Let's just see how it goes. And uh, initially, to be honest, when I first came in, I also did not process how big of a step or how big of a shift this was going to be for me. And honestly, you don't even kind of get that time to process, because, like, especially for me, it was just a 1 year course. I came in like August or September. It's like, and there's so many administrative stuff that you have to do. So much of your time goes away in like just classes and trying to just make sense of the curriculum and the education system, and how do you adapt to it? How do social situations work? How does job market works here? What is important? What is not important? So it's a lot of bureaucratic, administrative hassle which takes up your time. And when you first come, you're just, your vision is also so narrow. It's just like, oh, the very next thing that you have to do, that you don't really realize, like at least for me, the extent of this change, it dawned on me over time, over the next few months. And I don't think quite, connected to this place when I first came. Like it took me a lot of time. Initially, it was just super hard for me, everything here. But then over time, as I made more friends, as I kept going out more, as I just spent time with the city as a whole, I think right now I've really reached that place where I really like living here. I'm grateful that I get to live here. And just, I guess, explore what this place has for anyone, really.
Right. And how supportive are they for international students? Like, in France, it is like even if they know English, but still they want you to go learn French and then speak to them, right? We have that perception. So, what was your experience for that?
In terms of the language,
Yes,
I mean, it is true that if you speak French, it does make your life a lot easier here, in just in terms of participating in like, in just
right.
in terms, benefiting from all the kinds of cultural and social activities which happen here, which is actually quite a lot. But to be honest, I don't think I I was at a disadvantage or something of that sort, just because I think my university, it was a very English speaking environment, and then I worked in an international organization. So even there I would hardly hear French around me. And then even now when I'm working, it's a very international team. So of course, I think, your life is going to be so much more vibrant and, easier if you speak the language, but
Right.
it's also not impossible to get by, but it's just better to learn. Yeah.
Right. Because when I was in BTech, we had the option of taking either French or Russian language. So I selected French language at that time. And then I got to know from our mentor, the teacher, he told that the way we have this perception, right, that people who speak English properly get some added advantage, right? If you put the knowledge and the skill set aside, just because you can speak proper English give you some extra benefit. So that way French is something above English, that if you can speak French you are like okay, more superior. I
Yeah.
heard that. Is it true or
I think it really depends upon the setting in which you are in. I think I feel like we sometimes spend too much of our time thinking, oh, I'm not fluent in this language, that we also forget that we're pretty fluent in English, and that's a strength too. Like,
right?
a lot of people here, even speaking fluent English here, it's really a strength too.
Right.
And I really, again, as I said, it's excellent, magnificent if you're fluent in both the languages. But at least, and I might be biased because I might not have been in those situations or judged by those parameters just yet.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't think I have like a straightforward
Mhm.
answer for that. But I know what you're saying. I mean, language in itself can feel very empowering in some ways. You get to express, you get to, sometimes you're in situations where you need to kind of explain yourself or justify yourself or fight for yourself. And in those times, it might feel like a little bit disempowering if you don't have the vocabulary to say what you want to say.
Mm-mm. No, I what wanted to know is that suppose two-person has the same skill set. In
Yeah,
India, we
yeah,
we feel that if someone of them can speak English, he will get some
yeah.
extra benefit. There
Okay.
too, if someone is speaking English and one with French, so the French person will get some extra.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
Yes,
10
yes,
years back
that's
that I
true.
heard.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. I mean, if both the people are more or less equal and one person is fluent in both the languages, they'll always have an upper. That goes
Yeah.
without saying. Yeah.
Right. Okay, and during your study, did you do any part-time job? Was it easy to find one, or you just focused on your studies?
Very luckily, I got a scholarship, so I was like,
Okay.
all my living expenses were paid. In fact, I was even able to save some money out of all of that. So I very thankfully I did not really have to worry about finding part-time jobs just to finance myself. But other than that, at least my specifically the university that I studied in, it's a little bit far away from Paris.
Mhm.
So there were not, I mean, there were jobs in the sense that, sometimes professors needed some extra support with like grading or some sort of a teaching assistant sort of a roles. And we would have a platform where they would put up, and those were like paid. So there were some opportunities, but more limited, and thankfully I could dedicate all of my time to yeah, to my studies and everything. Yeah.
That is great. Oh, okay. I cannot see you. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Mm, okay. Now, what is your plan? Are you planning to move out or continue your job and there in Paris?
For now, I would really like to continue living for the time being. I don't know if it's a forever thing for me. I can't say yet. I'm still
Mhm.
like, I don't think I've still reached that point where I have like proper job stability and visa stability and all of that. But for now, I think I would. I'm really starting to like the city. I'm really starting to enjoy this place, and I would love to continue living here if it was totally up to me. But there are other constraints as well, so we'll see how it goes.
Right. And how is the work culture in your previous with your previous employer?
Um, so well, I have the experience of two working environments till now, so I can only speak
Right.
with this much of knowledge. I think in the first sort of job, it was with an international organization. So I think it was again, both of these places have been very, very international in the sense, in a way. But in the first case, I think it was a little bit different in the sense of it's a policy intergovernmental organization. So and it was
Right.
huge. It was huge. It
Mhm.
had like 4,000 plus employees.
That gives the guidelines, right? Yeah, you are in OECD, right? Who
Yeah,
gives
yeah,
the guidelines for experiment and all, right? In
yeah,
our work also
policy.
we mentioned
Yeah,
that, yeah, this is the
yeah.
guideline by OECD and all.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does a lot of like evidence-based policy analysis kind of
Mhm.
work, and I think there it was excellent kind of exposure, especially for me because it was like my first proper job, and I was getting in right out of the university, and I think everyone there were like extremely, extremely qualified and good at what they do, and but yeah, I mean, but it was just like at every point there are like multiple conferences happening on different topics, and we could just go sit in anything. So that was amazing in that way, but it was also like a very sort of formal environment because you're also having to deal with a lot of ministers and VIPs and delegations, and it's just more, yeah, it's more diplomatic and it's more formal. Whereas now I think I'm working with so that was one really, really good experience, which I very much value. But how my current experience is different. It's more with an NGO in Paris. So it's very, a lot, the people here are much, much younger. They're all more or less my age. There's more, it's very informal. Like when you go out for lunches with your colleagues, the sort of discussions that you have, the sort of, it feels a lot more friendlier and formal. There's much
Right.
less, I think, democracy. There's much less hierarchy amongst the ranks. There's much more. It's just more open in that sense. Yeah.
The Gen Z work culture.
Yeah. 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 Very much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Um, okay. And were you living inside campus or how was your living arrangement in
Well,
hostel or
while I was in university, yes, you do have like rooms on campus. And
right.
I think most of the international students are kind of given the priority when they're like allocating those rooms on campus as well. So you get like small studios. It's like 19, I guess 17 to 20 square meters. It's not that big, but it's good enough for like Paris standards because the accommodation here is really, really difficult, and it used to be slightly more affordable as well. But
Mhm.
yeah.
And cooking and all you used to do or you had
Uh,
kind of nice
um,
setup?
You kind of have to do everything when you're here. Like that's
Yeah.
one major lifestyle shift that you realize when you move from India to France. Because in India, it's just that manual labor is so cheap. You have like so many apps. It's crazy for me. Even now, I'm surprised whenever I go back to India. It's like within these 2.5 years, it's like before it used to be 1 day delivery, then it became like 2 hours delivery. Now it's like 15 minutes delivery. But here it's
Right.
like you have to do everything by yourself, There's no one like groceries, cooking, cleaning, laundry. You just need to manage all of that. And well, in terms of cooking, it was slightly difficult, I think, because the room that I got, it did not come with a kitchenette, and there just used to be like one common kitchen on the ground floor for like the entire building. So we had to just somehow manage with an induction, and it was slightly difficult, I should say, but well,
Right.
I'm just glad I got through it now, and yeah, my living situation is so much better now.
Yeah, I can understand. For me also, when I came here, cooking was the biggest deal for me. But now I think I am like, okay, doing good.
Yeah, yeah, it was really because also, you realize that even the supermarkets also they're not open on Sundays here. They get closed by like in the evening also they get closed pretty quickly. So and also like when you have an induction and you're cooking, especially Indian cooking, we use so many spices and there used to be like
Right,
smoke. There's no exhaust and everything would accumulate. Well, I'm just glad I don't have to deal with all of that right now.
right. So, would you recommend someone to study in France? Why or why not if you do not want to, from your own experience?
Look, sometimes I just don't give advice on such things, to be honest. I can only talk from my experience, and I
Yeah,
would just say that
yeah, that's
if
what
you
I
are
mean.
choosing to study, just know what you're signing up for. I'd say there's no right or wrong. I think everyone works under certain constraints. For me, I felt like a decision I could take because I was also at a more kind of a privileged position. I think my parents, my family were very supportive. They were willing to pay my fee here. I had those safety nets. Like I did not take like a huge ass loan to come study here. So I could take those risks because I knew that even if I did fail, it's okay. I could afford to not maybe get a job for a while. I could afford to not be employed. So
Mhm.
and I think also what is it that you want to get out of it, right? Because I think if you are someone who wants to just, earn a lot of money, for instance, and that's fine. But if you want that, maybe Europe is not the place to do that because it's not such a corporate sort of a culture as you have, let's say, in the US. Or
Right,
yeah, so it's like I think it depends upon what you want to get out of it and what are the constraints under which you're working. What is your socioeconomic situation that you come from? For me,
Mhm.
if I have to say, I think it's been a little bit hard, but now when I look at certain points, but now when I look back, I think I'm super, super glad that I made this choice, that I chose this, that even when it was, slightly difficult, I went through that process because that gives me, I think, just a lot of confidence right now in myself.
right,
And it's just one of those things that I now look back and feel, okay, if I'm capable of doing this, then really I can do anything in life. Like that's how it makes me feel right now. But it's also taken me a lot of time and effort to reach this point in my life.
right. Yeah, that's what I also reflect. Once you go away from your home, you kind of understand what you can do. That
Exactly.
the environment make you do that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Right.
just following up on, I think that's probably one of the my biggest learnings of living abroad is just that I think when I was in India, and I don't know what your experience has been, but for me at least, it used to feel like ev- I I was always kind of scrutinized, like I always had too many eyes on me,
Right.
like everyone, like family, relatives, friends, everyone somehow, is all keeping track of your exams, what you're doing, and I did not also follow a very conventional, professional path, which most people, at least from my community, tend to do. And for me, at every stage, it was just like, okay, when I was in Hyderabad, I was like, you know what, I just want to really get out of this. And then I went to Delhi, and then I was like, okay, I just want to kind of get out of this. And then I came here, and then it just gave me
Right.
that sense of independence and freedom to just feel like, what is it that I want to do as a person, not what someone else is telling me to do, not what the society kind of expects me to do, but to just have that anonymity, to just feel like, okay, no one really actually cares here what I'm doing. So it became easier for me to ask myself these questions. And I think that's the biggest sort of a change that I've had in my perspective.
Right. Okay, let me ask you this. There is a thing called that friend's way of dressing up, right? For ladies. Like the way French ladies dress up, they're always kind of well put together. So do you observe that how they look always proper?
Well, I mean, yes, it is true. A lot of people here are they're very put together. They're
Right,
very well dressed. You come here and you do see that people have a sense of fashion, and people have like,
right,
I mean, I think it's very evident. Like, especially during the winters, all winter clothing comes out, all boots and coats, and it's
right.
quite an experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think we are coming to the end. Okay, any final thought or funny stories that you can share before we end up?
Mm, Nothing really, actually. No funny stories coming at the top of my head. I just say that,
Or
yeah,
any
I mean, a lot of time.
memorable
Sorry.
memorable stuff that any memorable event that you probably miss when you move out of France? Something that you will cherish later.
I think I just more recently I've started running, and I think it's just so nice to be out in the sun, running outdoors, just by the river. I think that's just something which I really, really sort of enjoy. Is just kind of going on long walks by the, you have a river Seine which flows through Paris. So, and it's just, there's some really pretty places where a lot of times I still just go and just sit there and take a moment and be like, oh my God, like I'm really here. Like I still have those moments sometimes when I'm in Paris, and when it just sort of strikes me that, okay, like this is actually true. Like I am here in flesh and in person.
Right.
So I think nothing over the top, nothing super fancy, but just going, just walking. That's one of my favorite things to do. Just put on music or a podcast and just walk in Paris. And I think that's just something that I would really, really miss.
Like your own IKEA in Paris version.
Well, I've still not
Right.
watched Emily in Paris.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, IKEA. Thank you for coming and sharing your beautiful story.
Thank
Thank you
you. Thank
so
you for
much.
having me. Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, I thank everyone who joined online and who will be watching later. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye.